whose theology may have been off, but his practical application of the gospel was spot on? Are we being willing to be inconvenienced for the sake of someone else? God has asked us to be servants. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, Undercover Boss. Someone told me about it, where the CEO goes and he becomes just a common lower-level employee, and then he goes and he observes, and oftentimes the good employees, they get a raise or they get promoted, and the bad ones, they see the door. And what's so interesting about this is that Jesus himself humbled himself, came down to see the status of his kingdom, and sadly, instead of firing anyone except for Satan, he's willing to promote everybody. He's willing to lift them up. He's willing to say, Father, don't fire them, but forgive them, for they know not what they do. You know, when it comes to the things that God has given us, whether it's a vehicle, he may ask us, you know, he's not going to say, what kind of car did you drive? He's going to say, what did you do with that car to help other people? He's not going to ask how big your house was. He was going to ask, how many people did you welcome into it? He won't ask about the clothes in your closet, but about how many people you helped to clothe. He won't ask what the neighborhood you lived in was like, but how you treated your neighbors. So much in this world can go wrong. There's so many lives that are touched, and when we see all the pain and the suffering, we can get overwhelmed, and we think there's nothing really that I can do. There's only one place where there's an aggregate of human suffering, and that is in the heart of God. But here's what God does. He takes all that pain, he breaks it down into manageable sizes, and he distributes it, some to you, some to me. Then we are to ask ourselves, what portion of that can we handle? Because you know what? I can't bear much. It's only the grace of God. Sometimes people can't even deal with the things going on in their own family. Now here's the thing, you can't bear the weight of the city of Calgary, you can't bear the weight maybe of the personal situations that are going on, but God will give you the strength to bear some of it. He will give you the strength to invest in somebody that needs somebody. Now here's something, have you ever read something where maybe you're sitting down and then you read it and you have to sit up? Now, I read this quote and it really made me sit up. It's found in the book Acts of the Apostles 5:51, and it says, "The completeness of Christian character is attained when, is it when you can point out other people's sins? No. Is it attained when you are able to come to Sabbath school on time? No. The completeness of Christian character is attained when the impulse to help and bless others springs constantly from within." I'm going to read that one more time. The completeness of Christian character is attained when the impulse to help and bless others springs constantly from within. Now here's good news today. You may not have that impulse, but you have breath in your lungs today. And I have a question for you. Will God answer that prayer for you to become more selfless? I guarantee it. And God will bring you through circumstances and situations where He'll be able to show you your selfishness over and over and over again. And you're going to be wondering, why do you keep putting these people into my life, Lord? And God has this object lesson ready for you saying, I'm trying to teach you something. If we don't have that desire, Christ promises that He will give it to us. Now, I wanted to share something here. Now here, Proverbs 19:17 is beautiful. It says, "He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and He will pay back what He has given." Now this verse is just mind-blowing because God Himself, who owes us nothing, will be willing to go into debt to us when we do something for other people. Now that's just absolutely crazy. Jesus dies on the cross for our sins, and He says, you know what, not only that, but when you do things for other people, He says, I'll repay. You may have to wait like those disciples for that basket of blessings, but He says He is going to repay. When it comes to the judgment, Here's something that's really interesting, and we're going to be closing in a few minutes. It says, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all the nations, and he shall separate them one from another. Thus Christ on the Mount of Olives pictured to his disciples the scene of the great judgment day. And he represented its decision as turning upon one point. When the nations are gathered before him, there will be but two classes, and their eternal destiny will be determined upon what they have done or have neglected to do for him in the person of the poor and the suffering." Now, does that mean that we shouldn't focus on what's theologically correct? No, of course. What we understand in the picture of God that we see will lead us to making these decisions to help others. It says, "In that day, Christ does not present before men the great work he has done for them in giving his life for their redemption. He presents the faithful work that he has done for him. To those whom he sets upon his right hand, he will say, 'Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in, naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.' But those whom Christ commends knows not that they have been ministering unto him. To their perplexed inquiries he answers, 'Inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me.'" As you open your door to Christ's needy and suffering ones, you are welcoming unseen angels. You invite the companionship of heavenly beings. They bring a sacred atmosphere of joy and peace. They come with praises upon their lips. An answering strain is heard in heaven. Every deed of mercy makes music there. The Father from his throne numbers the unselfish workers among his most precious treasures. If you're not a musical person, you can still make music. It might not be here on this earth, but it will be in heaven by doing things for others. But Christ beholds it all, and he says, "It was I who was hungry and thirsty. It was I who was a stranger. It was I who was sick. It was I who was in prison. While you were feasting at your bountiful spread table, I was famishing in the hovel or the empty street. While you were at ease in your luxurious home, I had not where to lay my head. While you were crowded your wardrobe with rich apparel, I was destitute. While you pursued your pleasures, I languished in prison." Friends, it's easy to pass so many people by each day. And I'm not saying that you have to invest in everybody, but you are asked to invest in maybe the ones that's closest to you. I want to close with this. God is large and in charge. We are to be small and on call. People may not want to hear the gospel, but they may react if they see it lived out each day. Now, I want to end with this beautiful story. There's a denomination called the Moravians. Has anyone ever heard of the Moravians? Yeah. So in the 1400s, there was some Moravians, and they had a desire to win sadly, there were slaves on an island in the West Indies. And sadly, there was a British man in charge of that island, and he was an atheist, and he vowed that no Christian missionary would ever be allowed to be sent to this island. He said he would kill them on the spot. And sadly, there was these two Moravians, and this was in the 1400s, and they decided, you know what? God has put such a burden on our heart to win these people. They need to know Christ. And as they figured out how they could try to get onto the island, someone came with them with an amazing idea. The idea was this: why don't you sell yourself into slavery, and you'll have as much time with these people as you want? And after much prayer and fasting, this is what these two individuals did. They counted it more profitable to spend the rest of their days on this island winning these people who would not have a chance to know Christ. As these two young men left on the boat, their family in tears and agony, wondering what happened to these young, strong, we thought decent thinking young men to do something like this. And as they sailed away, after hugging and kissing their families, their last words they ever heard them say was this: "May the Lamb that was slain receive the reward of his suffering." Friends, are we willing, like these Moravians, that caused such a huge revival in their denomination, be willing to get out of our comfort zone, seek out people that need us? Because, like I said before, many people don't want to hear the gospel. They want to see it. God bless you. Happy Sabbath.